I'd like to welcome all of you to the second day of the Great Minnesota Gathering, the Minnesota State Fair. We're here at the Eco Expo building, Sustainability stage, and really want to thank those of you who came here, who braved the earlier rain. Glad it has stopped for now. And also those of you who are joining us on the Alliance for Sustainability Facebook live stream from across the country and maybe even the world. My name is Terry Gips. I volunteer as the president for the Alliance for Sustainability in Minneapolis, which I helped to co-found nearly 40 years ago. And I'm here, I'm very happy to say, with Abby Matthew. Abby, you want to come on up? And you want to just introduce yourself? You can take your mask off if you like.
Hello everyone. Yeah, I'm Abby Matthew. I'm a junior at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, studying environmental science, policy, and management with minors in public health as well as corporate environmental management. So I've been interning here at the Alliance since March of this coming year, and so it's been really great so far. Kind of help out with the Alliance with blog posts, social media, website things, and anything else they need help with. So hopefully this, you really enjoyed this speech, and I'm looking forward for it. Yeah, our interns are really amazing. We all are kind of mostly college students or recent graduates, and we all help out with really various stuff. They're all really talented individuals that really do value the environment, value sustainability, and just have the same morals as the Alliance for Sustainability.
And what I want to say is that Abby and the other interns are the reason the Alliance has been able to accomplish so much. We're really grateful for all of the work that you've been doing. Oh, and Abby, did you say where you're from?
Yeah, I'm originally from Bay Area, California, so like San Jose, San Francisco, California. So this is only my second time at the state fair actually, but it's been pretty good so far, and yeah, excited to go and explore more of the area. But yeah.
And the great thing is, this is the first time I've ever gotten to meet Abby in person, because we've been operating virtually and we have interns from all over the country, but most of us never even gotten to meet. So I'm really glad to be able to finally meet you in person. So thanks so much. Abby's going to be helping out. If you have any questions about anything the Alliance is doing, Abby will be in the back. And just really glad that you could be here. So thanks so much, Abby. Appreciate it. Today we're going to be talking about, can we overcome our consumption addiction, what we call affluenza, and fulfill people's fundamental needs to lead happier, healthier lives. This is really one of my favorite presentations that I get to do, and really hope you'll enjoy our time together, that you'll learn some new things, ask any questions or comments at any time, and feel free to comment on our Facebook live stream, which we can look at after the presentation. We'll also be recording it and posting it if you'd like to share it with your family, friends, or colleagues. And we think that this can just be a really great learning experience for all of us, so please feel free to share. And what I wanted to also just mention is that, well, we'll talk in just a little bit more about the Alliance for Sustainability in just a minute. So my background is, I have a sustainability consulting firm called Sustainability Associates, working with Fortune 500, medium, small businesses, government agencies, cities, communities, congregations, schools. I've been working in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors for more than 40 years on sustainability. Worked with companies like Cargill, the Aveda Corporation, and in the public sector, I've worked in the White House under President Carter, for 2 congressmen, for the Cooperative Extension Service, and then also I was the chair of the St. Louis Park Environment and Sustainability Commission. In the nonprofits, I've done work with the University of Minnesota, the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, where I was teaching, and then worked in 45 different countries on whether we could feed the planet without destroying it in the process. And I've written 2 books, one called Breaking the Pesticide Habit, Alternatives to Hazardous Pesticides, and the Humane Consumer and Producer Guide about humanely produced animal products. The Alliance for Sustainability was created almost 40 years ago in 1983, and our mission is to co-create sustainability on a personal, organizational, and planetary level. We have a free membership that you can get at www.affors, and also we've got a handout that's here for any of you who would like that has all this information, also about getting involved. We have a weekly e-newsletter that you would get if you joined us, again for free. We created something called a Declaration of Co-Creation and Interdependence, a really bold statement about the kind of world that we would like to create. We have a green print, which is our plan for action that you can see. We're promoting a book by one of our board members called You Can Save the World. And we do sustainability challenges. We do a weekly podcast called Inclusivity Talks Sustainability. And we have a campaign that I'm going to tell you about at the end, based on how much time we have, called the She Kindness Campaign for Sustainability, Health, Equity, and Kindness. A very exciting campaign that we would love to have you involved with. So the question that I wanted to ask you today is this question that Buckminster Fuller asked, which is really to me one of the most profound questions anybody's ever asked. And the question is, how do we make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without ecological damage or disadvantage to anyone? An extraordinary question, and the truth is, there is a way that we can do that. And one of the core parts of that is what I want to speak with you about today, about how we can meet people's fundamental needs while we're doing it. So first, I want to just talk briefly about what is sustainability, then what are our fundamental needs, based on this work by alternative Nobel Prize winning economist Dr. Manfred Max-Snead. How can we meet these needs? And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, what is the challenge and opportunity facing our society, and address our consumption addiction, which we call affluenza, consuming the planet to death. John DeGraff came up with that term. We'll talk about the power of voluntary simplicity, and then we'll talk about the natural step framework very briefly and its fourth principle of sustainability, meeting fundamental needs, and then open up to questions and discussion. So if that sounds all right. And the other thing I wanted to do is to mention that we have this short paper on some of the key ideas and resources we'd be happy to share if you sign up. You can sign up here or in the back. And also, you can request my article that I'll be talking about on Monday here on this stage called Show Me the Money, 10 Simple Sustainability Steps you can take to save money and the environment. And if you do sign up on this sheet or go online to www.affors, we'll also give you a complimentary membership in the Alliance for Sustainability so that you can have that. And also, if you sign up, we have coupons in the front and the back to have 10% off at French Meadow Bakery and Cafe, who we've been partnering with for a long time, the oldest continually operating organic bakery in the United States. So, and we'll be having several more talks, which I'll share with you here at the State Fair. So there are a lot of definitions of sustainability. I don't think that there's the best definition. Each one sort of has its own essence. I'm just going to share two of the biggest of those definitions. The first is one we developed at the Alliance for Sustainability. It was really one of the first ever developed. And it's a four-part definition that is ecologically sound, economically viable, socially just, and humane, meaning to embody our highest values. So how we treat people, animals, and the planet. And it's sort of like a chair that you sit on that has four legs. We need all four legs to be able to achieve sustainability. A second definition comes from the United Nations. This is the most widely used definition, and it is that sustainable development or sustainability meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So we take care of our needs today, but the needs of future generations as well. And that includes animals. And then finally, we sort of think of sustainability as being like a North Star. It's really a vision of the kind of world that we would like to create. And it's a holistic, integrative perspective that really embodies all aspects of life. And it encompasses a number of different approaches that you may have heard about, like regeneration, resilience, permaculture, circular economy, and other cutting-edge approaches. So that's our perspective about sustainability and where we're coming from. So just want to see if anybody has any questions, and if not, we'll move on. And we'll get right into this work that really changed my life. This is the work of Dr. Manfred Max-Neef. He received the Alternative Nobel Prize for this work. And his basic idea is that we can meet people's fundamental needs with unlimited amounts of learning, laughter, love, meaningful work, and community while eliminating what we don't want: stress, expense, pollution, and violence. So this is a picture of him. He's known as the Barefoot Economist for his work in sustainable development projects in Latin America and Africa. He's written a book that's quite complex, so I'm going to just try to simplify his ideas, and he's the head of a large university in Chile. So here are his 4 ideas about fundamental needs, which are quite different than Maslow's. As you may know, Maslow said that self-fulfillment, self-actualization is at the highest. And Max-Neef has a different approach. He feels there are 10 fundamental needs, and that these needs are always present at all times for all people. So a very different approach than Maslow, which sort of talks about going up. And according to Max-Neef, there are these 10, and we all have them at all times. So he says that these needs are not airy-fairy. We know what they are. They're defined, impossible to classify. And there are 10 of these needs: subsistence, protection, security, affection, understanding, participation, leisure, creativity, identity, meaning, freedom, and transcendence. This was really powerful when I first heard it, but what I was really affected by was when I was doing some presentations in New York, and I had a workshop where there was a great musician, poet that came to the workshop named Ed Pop with Pop Sustainability. And the first night of the workshop, he was really touched, and he went back, and he came back the next day with this one-page sheet. And I'm just going to share what he did, talking about these 10 fundamental needs. And what he said is that a sustainable self is composed of a physical body that is healthy, exercises, eats a proper diet, gets ample rest, and is protected and secure, with ample shelter and surrounded by family and friends, and is allowed to express affection, emotion, and share feelings, desires, and emotions, so that you gain understanding of yourself, others, and the world around you, which lets you participate and serve and contribute to your family, friends, causes, charities, and to allow yourself to be contributed to, which can be balanced by leisure, to take time out, to not to do things for the sake of pure enjoyment, to relax, which allows for creativity, to create, to allow your own essence, your distinct personality to come through in any form it wishes, be it music, art, dance, writing, sports, which gives you a sense of identity, that special something in you that makes you distinctly you, which leads to transcendence and one's connection to all things, to know that you are one small piece of the whole, which liberates you to freedom and control of your own destiny. Your choices, your intentions, and your actions create your reality. Well, I was totally blown away when I read them. I just was like, I said, oh my goodness, everything that matters to me is on this one sheet of paper. This really gets at the heart, the essence of what I really want in my life. And somebody had actually been able to pull all of that together into this one sheet of paper. So I'm forever indebted to him for taking some sort of tough concepts to understand fully and making them very practical and very down to earth. So that's the first of the points that Max Neef makes, these 10 fundamental needs. The second is that these needs are the same in all countries and in all historic times. These needs have never changed. They're the same for every person who has ever lived, regardless of the culture or the history. And that I found to be actually comforting, because sometimes we think about the differences between human beings, but in fact we all share these same 10 fundamental needs. The third point that he makes is that these needs are not interchangeable. In other words, you can have a lot of one thing, but it doesn't do anything about meeting these other 9 fundamental needs. And so it's really quite profound in that way. And what was really shocking for me is I've always wondered, I've done a lot of work in developing countries, and I've always wondered, how is it that people who are in developing countries can oftentimes be very happy, even though having far less material things than we have. And for the first time, I began to understand it, because so many of their fundamental needs were really met. And I wondered why it was that so often some of us actually are really unhappy despite having so much abundance in this country. And this really helped me to understand it. And in fact, Max Neef actually defines poverty as not the lack of money, but poverty is any unmet fundamental need. That's how he defines poverty, which is really quite profound. And based on that, he says that the U.S. is perhaps the poorest country in the entire world in terms of meeting fundamental needs. So this was really eye-opening for me and really helped me understand that despite all of this material abundance, that we have a long way to go in terms of being able to meet fundamental needs. And I'm going to show you in just a second why this matters so much about for each one of us to try to have our fundamental needs met, because it relates directly to our consumption and this disease called affluenza, consuming the planet to death. So his fourth point is that we can actually have more satisfaction and use less stuff. We don't need more stuff to have more satisfaction. And this was really cool, because I realized that all of the so much of the consumption that we do is really trying to fulfill a fundamental need. And it's like something that's missing for us, and we think that by going out and shopping, we can have that fundamental need met. And it might feel pretty good for that day, and maybe even the next day. But it doesn't give us lasting fulfillment or satisfaction. So this can be a really powerful way for being able to look at it. Here's a practical example of this in Sweden. Gothenburg is Sweden's second largest city, and they retrofitted a huge apartment complex. And they did some basic things that we would think about in terms of sustainability. They did solar panels and energy conservation and daylighting, good common sense things, but they did one other thing. And they put in an attached greenhouse to the building. And you might say, well, a greenhouse is a good thing because you get to grow vegetables and food and flowers and that kind of thing. And it's also good because the greenhouse traps traps the sun's energy, so you have warm air that you can use to warm the building. So it's good from an ecological standpoint. But what I didn't understand at the time was that, in fact, it helps us meet so many of our other fundamental needs. So not only for things like subsistence, having the food to eat, but things like security, because we know each other, and we have a sense of connection. But identity, meaning, creativity, participation, leisure. So what this allows us to do is, by designing our spaces in such a way, we can fulfill many, many of our fundamental needs with hardly any cost whatsoever. Fulfilling fundamental needs does not have to cost more. It's really quite remarkable. And I think a lot of the exhibits here that we have at Eco Experience actually help show us some of those pathways that we can do have a more fulfilled life. So what's really cool about this fundamental needs work of Mock's Need is that everybody has these basic needs. Nobody is left out. Everybody is included. And I've found that nobody is against it. When I speak over at the state capitol, I have as many Republicans as Democrats that will come up to me and say, I totally agree. I think this is the greatest thing. So this is something that Republicans, Democrats, Greens, Independents, that everybody can share. It's really quite profound. Companies have been using this. Ray Anderson, the former CEO of Interface, the world's largest commercial floor covering manufacturer, I did a presentation for him, and he said, Terry, this is what I've been looking for. This is the prototype of the company of the new millennium. And he used it ever since. So it's being used by corporate America. And what's cool is we can meet everybody's fundamental needs. This is not difficult. We can do this. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And here's the best part that I want to tie right in at the core of this presentation. This is the best antidote I know to this disease of affluenza, of consuming the planet to death. It's really quite incredible. Many of us will say, well, let's just consume less. Let's sacrifice. Let's give up. And if you're taking that message out to the state fair crowd or to America, it probably won't be a very successful message. That's sort of not where people go, and we've been doing a lot of it amidst COVID. But how do you feel if I say to you, how would you like to have more? How would you like to have more of the things that really matter to you, the things that give you life, things that fulfill you? And we can do that. So rather than having to give up things, people can have more of what they want, which are things like healthy, attractive, and nurturing environments. And we can have less of what we don't want: pollution, violence, stress, and expense. We can have streets that we can walk down at night and feel safe and secure. We can have meaningful work. We can have a sense of community with other people. This is not difficult. We have the ability to do that. And so this is why this is such a profound concept that he's brought forward. And you can read about some of this in this book by Ray Anderson, Confessions of a Radical Industrialist. Profits, people, and purpose, doing business by respecting the earth. And I would add, and people. So, I want to conclude this section by just talking about 9/11. And we've sort of been through something like 9/11. We're about to celebrate the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And I don't know those of you who are old enough to remember, but in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, it was an amazing experience. It was horrible, but it was amazing at the same time, because everyone looked at their lives differently. People actually were rethinking what is important in their lives and wanted to serve and contribute. Very much like what's been going on with COVID, that we've been sort of at home and thinking what matters. And life is now different as a result of COVID in terms of how people are seeing their lives and what matters in their lives. So that was going on during 9/11. However, what did our country's leadership ask us to do after 9/11? Does anybody remember what they asked us to do? They asked us to go shopping. And what's amazing about that is every American knew that is not what they wanted to do. It's incredible that what this really showed is that we are far more than our things. People really care. We haven't had leadership that has called on us or spoken to us in all levels, not just government, but in business and congregations, all kinds of places. There is an opportunity for us to actually come together on a really fundamental level to talk about how do we fulfill these fundamental needs. And the great news that I can share with you is we are not only far more than our things, but we are citizens. We aren't just consumers. We care very deeply about what is going on. And so this is a conversation that is really profound and can transform the world. And I think it was summarized by this great Canadian sustainability leader, Mike Nickerson. And he said, we can no longer have everything we want. And I'm an American. I read that first line and I went, oh gosh, giving up the American dream of consuming and all that stuff. But then the next line, he says, but we can be more than we ever imagined. And that's what's incredible. We can actually create a new world. We can really do this. And that's what the Alliance for Sustainability is committed to doing, is to help bring about that kind of shift in the world. And each one of us can do it in our own lives and make a huge difference. So I wanted to just see, this is that first section that I wanted to talk about. Any questions about that? Does that make sense? Anything that you're wondering about? Does that sound okay? Make sense? Good. All right. So let's talk about this consumption thing that we've got going on. The UN estimates that the richest fifth of the world's population consumes 66 times as much as the poorest fifth. 66 times more, including 58% of all of the energy on the planet. They own 87% of the world's vehicles, which is a major greenhouse gas source. And get this, the world's 225 richest people have a combined wealth of well over $1 trillion. That's equivalent to the annual income of 47% of all of the world's people. 225 people, and almost half the world's population. The UN Development Program estimated it would cost about $40 billion a year to meet the needs of the world's poor for food, water, shelter, and sanitation. That's equivalent to just 4 months spent on the Iraq War, funding for New York City after 9/11, or just 4% of the net wealth, 4% of the net wealth of the 225 wealthiest people on the planet. 4%. Ted Turner actually donated 33% of his net wealth, $1 billion, to the UN to do just that, to address those challenges. Warren Buffett did $37 billion, and Bill Gates is giving even more. So the main point that I wanted to emphasize is, it's not that we have a lack of resources. Some people have a massive amount of resources, and actually can make a huge difference. We all can. So let's get right at this consumption addiction issue that we have. This disease called affluenza, that was coined by John DeGraff in his book Affluenza. Let's try not to see. Is it possible to not consume the planet to death? The challenges with consumption is that high consumption often results in time poverty and stress, physical and mental illness, wasteful status competition, loss of community, disconnection from nature, a sense of meaninglessness or alienation in life, and general unhappiness, plus ecological degradation. And I just this came to me one day, you can't get enough of what you don't need. There is this whole concept of what we call voluntary simplicity, actually choosing to live with less. And a 1995 study by the Merck Family Foundation estimated that about 28% of US citizens are downshifting to some extent. And I would say that as a result of COVID, huge numbers more, and also millennials and others, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z also, are just consuming far, far less. There are approximately 200 million participants in the global simplicity movement. 50% said that minimizing their expenditures plays a large part in their simple living. It's amazing that there is increased happiness from voluntary simplicity, living with less. Overall, 87% reported that people were happier living more simply. So I think that this experience allows us to start getting into that other mindset. And Bill Stewart, the Vice President of Customer Care at Sunrun, said, "We've always been in a culture where more is more. And suddenly we're in a culture where less is a better quality of life." It's pretty revolutionary. And just on this point, yesterday I was speaking on the stage about raising kids sustainably with two of my children. And they both said, Dad, I want to take you over to this house over here. And there's a house here that is on wheels, a nice tiny house that Excel is promoting, where you can have your fundamental needs met. And you know what the cost of that house is? It's gorgeous. It's $30,000. So we can create homes and places for people to live very simply. And it's on wheels, so you can take it where you want to go. And I think we're going to see more and more of that kind of shift taking place. So any questions or comments about any of that? Does that make sense? Great. So I want to get to this other section about the fourth principle of sustainability that comes from the natural step framework. This approach to sustainability that was developed in Sweden. And the fourth of these principles is to remove barriers to people meeting their fundamental needs. So simply, can we use less stuff and save money while allowing every person to meet their fundamental needs? And this work was based on the work of Dr. Manfred Max-Neef on his fundamental needs. And you know, there's some simple things that we can do, like having a community garden where we connect with each other and fulfill those fundamental needs. Health and wellness programs that help us do that, where we connect with other people and also help our bodies at the same time. And I've always loved this from the Tao Te Ching. If you realize that you have enough, you are truly rich. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. So simple things that we can do, starting today. We can just go hug a tree. We can connect to nature. Doesn't cost anything, very cheap, and for so many people, it really helps bring them back into the present. And it's all kinds of great simple solutions with our kids and ourselves to deal with what we call nature deficit disorder. You can do things like plant a seed, watch it grow, eat its fruit, get back to the basics of life. And you know, I love this because it says, maybe you will grow up to invent new technology that saves our Earth, or for the moon, or Mars colonies. So, you know, we need to have kids be able to connect with the Earth. Simple things in terms of mindfulness. There's just great research about the benefits of prayer or mindfulness, of taking time every day to allow some quiet in your life. And we have wonderful studies that are showing the benefits for our military, service people, for doctors and nurses, and for each one of us to be able to do that. So it's really a powerful, positive way to live a healthier life. We also can create great green jobs. So a great organization called Sustainable South Bronx has been doing green roofs, retrofitting, planning, environmental stewardship training. And it's connecting people, helping to grow their neighborhoods, make them safer and healthier. There's the Chicago Green Corps with job training, landscape, gardening, computer refurbishing, meeting people's fundamental needs so that they can actually have computers, getting rid of household hazardous waste, helping to weatherize people's homes. And then one of my favorite ones is this one, called Wages. Women's Action to Gain Economic Security. And this is in the Bay Area, and it's an organization run by low-income immigrant Latina women, and they've launched 3 green house cleaning co-ops, where they clean their house, they get a decent living wage, they use green cleaning products. So it creates a win-win-win across the board. And we can create economies that are supportive of these kinds of organizations and businesses. One of the things that I was involved in was co-founding the Sacramento Community Garden Program, where in the worst housing projects in Sacramento, we created 20 community gardens involving 4,000 people. a lot of the people couldn't even talk to each other, all different languages and ethnic backgrounds. But it became a huge successful project. And ironically, if you took an acre of public park space, that costs $10,000 a year to maintain. If you have a community garden, it costs maybe $100 or $200. It's just, there's simple things that we can do. It reduces graffiti and violence, it improves people's health, school behavior and performance, and we kind of harvest potluck at the end of the time to bring people together. Let me just do a time check. 10 minutes, great, perfect. It ties into sustainability and meeting these fundamental needs, ties into pretty much everything, including art. And we can do sustainability public art. Right here in St. Paul, we had a unique combination, a program of combining public recycling and public art, where they had artists create wonderful, beautiful recycling containers that are attractive, create jobs for the artists, and it helps reduce waste and help achieve St. Paul's goal of becoming waste-free, while also increasing public art in public spaces. At St. Joan of Arc, a new green building, increased productivity in people's attitudes. It worked much better for the custodians, easier to maintain. It had natural daylight, which is far healthier, ergonomic chairs, ventilation beyond code, showers, and changing rooms for people who rode their bikes to work. At IKEA, IKEA was one of the first companies to use the natural step. People are called co-workers, not employees. They're committed to diversity. They encourage innovation and the desire to learn and improve. They have open communication. They have an annual anonymous company-wide survey. And half of the U.S. co-workers do flex hours, compressed schedules, telecommute, or job share. So you can create businesses that can actually fulfill people's fundamental needs. And I think the last slide that I wanted to mention here about the fourth principle of the natural step is this slide that was put together by the Children's Defense Fund. And it shows two different images. The image on the left is what typically happens in our society with kids in disadvantaged areas. And it shows all of the costs when we don't invest in our children. And if you add up those costs, $49,000 for juvenile detention, and then Ohio Correctional Facility, $123,000, $25,000 for adult prison, our cost for one person is $3.8 million. That's our cost that we pay as taxpayers. On the other side, on the blue side, are the benefits. If we invest in this kid, what will happen is, with after-school programs, $3,800. Ohio State University, going to university, $19,000. $39,000 for Job Corps training. If we make this investment in this same young person, that young person will be a net benefit to our society of $1 million. That's $1 million per person. So the swing there is $4.8 million, almost $5 million a person. And when I share this slide with Republicans, they get it. They can see that it really makes sense to do these social programs as well as environmental programs. So we can actually shift where we are in our world today. So I want to complete the formal presentation. When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds, your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. That's when Patanjali. And I think that's the world that we can create. Once we understand these fundamental needs, we don't need to consume the planet to death. We can create actually a healthy, sustainable future for the planet. So I want to see if you have any questions or comments. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Any? Okay, great. Then what I want to do is just to conclude with two things. First, I hope you will come back here to the sustainability stage, whether in person on Monday. Well, I hope you'll come anytime during the fair, but on Monday, I will be back and I will be speaking here on, hard to read there, on Show Me the Money, 10 Simple Sustainability Steps You Can Take to Save Money and the Environment. It's really an inspiring presentation. And if you can't come in person, we will be live streaming it on the Alliance for Sustainability's Facebook page. On Wednesday, we'll have Abby Matthew will be joining me along with Toya Lopez, and we're going to be speaking about a campaign I'll just share briefly with you about co-creating a world of sustainability, health, equity, and kindness, which we call our She Kindness campaign. And we'll be speaking about that both at 10 o'clock in the morning and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then finally on September 2nd, we're going to have Abby come back along with Brock Munster-Tiger, who's also one of our interns. We have 10 fabulous interns, and they're going to be speaking about sustainability, the challenges, opportunities, and future from a student's perspective. So we'll get a much younger people's perspective on that. So I hope you can join us for that. So just briefly mentioning about the She Kindness campaign. We're really excited about this campaign. We would love to have you involved. And the goals of the She Kindness campaign are to support personal and institutional transformation, fundamental policy shifts, and systems change. And our goal is to educate, engage, and inspire more than 1 million people and groups to action on everything from lifestyle and consumption to impactful campaigns and policy changes. We're going to be doing 20 presentations to various businesses. We want to engage the employees and have them commit to at least one sustainability action and build support from the business community for sustainability. We'll be presenting to 20 schools, 10 of which will be in underserved communities, to energize young people and have them commit to at least one sustainability action and create something called Students for Sustainability. And then we're going to be working on various public policies. We have various partners and we'll be supporting these policies. And last is our declaration of co-creation and interdependence. And we hope you'll go to our webpage and if you like it, we hope you'll join with us and sign it, get your organization, friends, and colleagues. And also, we hope you'll join us on social media. So with that, on behalf of the Alliance for Sustainability, I want to say a very special thank you. Thanks for being here, and look forward to being able to work together to help bring about sustainability. Thanks so much.